Hey, what's going on, everyone? It's David Cherry. This is Founder Therapy. Today, I want to talk with you about how your goals change and evolve as you get older. It's something that people don't always really talk about, but it's something that is occurring for all of us, is that when our life goes through changes and we get a bit older and we go through different phases, the things that we chase after start to change. And that's a little bit unexpected. We think that when we're setting goals, we're going to always want those things. We're going to always want the success that we're chasing, especially when we're in our 20s and we're really wanting to be visible and we want to prove our value and we're out of college and we're thinking, I just have to make all of this stuff work and I want other people to see that I can make this work. When you get a bit older and your life starts to change, the things that you care about start to change as well. And I think that in the background for myself, even in my 20s, I had some sense that what I wanted was maybe a little bit different than what I was after. And after leaving the school path that I was on to go get a corporate job, starting a startup, I thought I went on this completely alternative route. I thought that I was someone where I was breaking from the norm by starting my own company out of college and growing it into a successful business. And it wasn't until maybe 5-10 years into building my own company that I realized that the path that I had chosen was just another path. And it was not necessarily better or worse than the path of going corporate or being a freelancer or whatever that might be. It was just its own path with its own system. The VC world, the angel investment world, the tech world, it's its own game with its own rules, its own traps and pitfalls, no different than the pathway of working corporate, which has many benefits, but also many traps. So if you think that you've chosen a pathway and somehow you missed out because the grass is greener because you didn't take this other path, I'm here to tell you that there's the same amount of rules and traps and pitfalls that you can fall into, whether you're starting your own business or you're working corporate or you're a stay-at-home mom, whatever that might be. It's easy to feel like the grass is always greener. And when you hit your mid-30s, at least in my experience, you start thinking about things a little bit differently. And one of the things that you start thinking about differently is you start thinking on a longer time horizon. When you're in your 20s, you're so focused on the now that it's not that easy to think about life and the later period of your life. And what happened to me that was interesting was as soon as I got into my mid-30s, I started thinking, okay, I'm at this kind of destination now. And now I'm considering, who am I going to be in my 60s? Who am I going to be in my 70s? And I hit this dynamic where I started thinking on a longer time horizon. And now that I'm thinking that way, that's part of what's reoriented my interests and what it is that I'm planning for. So I thought I'd talk through a few goals that I have now that I'm in my mid-30s and I'm thinking much more about my 60s. The first is that I'm thinking a lot more about my health. And I'm thinking about my health in a completely different way. Whereas before, health was maybe about the way I looked. While that's still part of it, now it's about how much energy I have, how mobile I am, and really how fit I'm going to be for the longest duration of time. So when I go into the gym, I'm not working out for me just today. I'm working out for me 30 or 40 years from now. And if you take that mindset and you really start thinking, if I'm doing something today to be fit 30 years from now, what you start to do changes. For example, I'm much more interested in racket sports because those are things you can play for a long time. I'm much more interested in keeping my cardio up because it's something that's easy to have fall by the wayside. And I'm doing Pilates and yoga and things that are going to keep me mobile for a very long time. And so while it might feel really good to put a lot of weights on the bench press and feel like you're really accomplishing something because you're able to lift up this heavy weight, the meaning of that really starts to change, where it's really like, why do I actually care that much about the total amount of weight that I can lift? And are the people who are lifting for a very particular reason to extremely grow their muscle, are they actually thinking about longevity, or is what they're doing actually causing them some problems down the road, which is likely to be the case? In your 30s, you start to think about fitness in this completely new way. And there's someone I recommend highly you check out, which is Helen Langer, who talks a lot about the mind-body connection and about how age is really a mindset and how we even heal ourselves is really a mindset. And this positive mindset and view of yourself as being capable of being somebody who's fit late in their life is also extremely important. So I've been very inspired by lots of YouTubers who are in their 50s and 60s who are showing that you can be fit at that age. And I'm trying to learn from them rather than just trying to learn from the person who is able to bench press a lot at the gym. The second thing I'm thinking about very differently in my 30s is money. And it really has changed its meaning in a lot of different ways. Of course, this makes it easier when you've actually made some money to feel like you've got a different relationship with money because you see through some of the traps maybe that you didn't see before you had some. But I start to think about other things like donating money. And I start to think about how money is more for prioritizing experiences rather than having some particular net worth, and really understanding that money is not the same at every different period of your life. Even though it's the same dollar, it will be spent very differently in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and beyond. And there's a great book on that subject, which is called Die with Zero, that I highly recommend. And in that book, he talks about how if you want to have the quintessential hostel road trip in Europe, you really probably only want to do that from age 18 to 35, right? You're not really wanting to go to that party scene and do Europe in that cheap hostel way unless you're younger. And so that opportunity and that experience, it's only available in that part of your life. There's certain things that we can do that only really are possible in certain parts of our life. And even if we did that same exact trip 40 years later, it's just going to feel different. And what your values are at that time will likely be different. You're going to value comfort probably more than the thrill of staying up super late and partying with people in hostels. So what that means is that when you spend money today, there's things that you're going to be spending money on today that you won't actually want to spend money on in the future. And there's things you're not spending money on today that you're going to want to spend money on. And so understanding how money evolves decade to decade is important for understanding your finances. And more importantly, is best to understand, what do I actually care about in this phase of my life? And how can I spend appropriately to that? And something I'm thinking a lot more about is in 20 and 30 years, I really want to donate a lot of money. And so how can I accumulate wealth now so that I can give as much as possible 20, 30, 40 years down the road? Because I think that giving back and service and donation will be more meaningful at that point in my life. So I can work harder now to donate more money later. Now, last, the thing that I really have started considering a lot differently at this stage in my life is just seeing that life is change, is just seeing that there are many things we can put our attention on. There are many things that don't really matter that much, that our culture wants us to spend a lot of time on, that we don't actually have to care about. And if you start seeing through a lot of the games that many people are playing very hard that you don't actually care about, be it money or status or wealth or whatever that is, it's really amazing to simply let go of playing some of those games so that you can enjoy the life that you have now without getting caught up doing things that you don't exactly want to do. And if you've ever checked out the 5 Regrets of the Dying, which you can Google it to see the Wikipedia or check out the book, you'll know that a lot of people have wisdom in their 80s before they die that basically says they wanted to live the life that they truly wanted without listening so much to what other people wanted for them. And Helen Langer likes to say, there's no good reason why you can't have the wisdom of someone in your 80s today, in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, whatever it might be. So I'm understanding more and more that life is about change, that we're not the same person every decade, and that life is this large, brief, and complex journey that we're all on. And I'm doing my best to stay seeking the pathways that are going to make me feel the best at each decade. And so I thought I'd share some of those ideas with you today, hoping they resonate regardless of what age you are. If you have any comments or thoughts or ideas, feel free to leave them in the comments below. And with that, I'll be back again very soon. Later.